Hi, Melanie.
Hi,
How are you this afternoon?
doing great.
We're here with Melanie Ooi am I saying it right? Ooi?
Oui.
Oh, good. Melanie Ooi of Blue Lotus Henna. She's teaching at the Henna Intensive Retreat for the first time this year. We're so excited to have her joining us as an instructor. Um, so, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. I've been in meetings and bridal consultations and last minute appointments all day. So this is my moment to sort of sit down for an hour, take it easy and drink some
Nice.
tea and chat with you guys, and then get back into it for my last appointment of the day.
Wow, so you've got another appointment after this.
Yeah, this is high season, so it's often a lot of last minute appointments and other responsibilities. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, the summer is, I think it's busy for all henna artists.
Mhm.
So, who are some of your favorite fine artists?
I wish you'd asked me these questions earlier. Right. Oh, you know, gee, I was in. Oh. This is the kind of thing that I'm always really bad at when people say, "What's your favorite song?" Oh, I can't think of a single song. But I have to say that probably the genre that I'm influenced by pretty heavily is Art Nouveau. So Mucha and is it Audrey Beardsley? That kind of style, very
Yeah.
romantic. Sort of late 1800s, early 1900s is the era that really captures me and that I feel is very complementary with henna, with actually even traditional Mendi style. And so I sort of meld the two because I feel like it brings up, for me, it's more a romantic energy that comes through. So aside from like being influenced very strongly by the Art Nouveau era, um, I couldn't just like name a name for you in terms of like, oh, Dali or Picasso or something like that, or Monet. I mean, I appreciate all of those artists for what they were and what they did in their eras, but and in terms of modern artists, I have said this for years. I work very much with my head in the sand, and I don't look outward very much into the rest of the art world and current things that are going on. I tend to take little tiny pieces of inspiration from different aspects of life, and then I bring it into my work. Um, in order, I think, I don't know if part of that is to try to stay as authentic to myself as possible, and not be imitating, or if it's also just my personality in that I'm more internal. I don't spend hours surfing the web and going down rabbit holes and exploring things. I'm a little simpler than that. So in terms of my artistic process, that's I don't have like very strong influences from other artists in time.
That must be why your work is so unusual and so unique.
I think it's a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very unique. You have a lot of really incredibly unique pieces. I often come across a new henna design you've done, and I think, oh, wow, where did she get, where did that idea come from? It was just, it's so, you can tell it's a melding of influences, but at the same time, it's something completely different that you haven't seen anywhere
Mhm.
else.
Right.
I really like that about your art. Um, would you say that any henna artists have influenced your art over the
Yeah,
years, or
I
maybe
think
when you first started?
definitely, especially as social media becomes so much more of a platform for us to explore what's going on out there in the world. I've over the last year or two become more and more influenced by what's going on currently, and it even took me a long time to catch on to that because I started doing henna before there were any, there were very few decent images online. If you were to search henna, you'd come up with the same ones over and over again, and there was a mixture of quality. And and so probably my earliest influences were the design books that I got by Asha Savla and Bhavini Garavara from India, because those were accessible. They're little design books. And that was influential to me because they seemed to be doing something that had a signature style. And I loved Bhavini's use of negative space and Asha Savla's how organic and unique her motifs were. It's not something that's really influenced me in terms of my own work, but it was really eye-opening to see that here is a modern interpretation of traditional Mendi done in India, which was really interesting. And so that sort of pushed me to the next level of how I was conceptualizing composition. And then in the last couple of years, especially having come to the retreat and met the different artists like Nick and Rebecca Friedman and Bridget and all these amazing artists, they've, now we're all connected online. So I see their work constantly, even if I'm not actually that actively seeking it. And everything is popping up all the time, so it's great. And so whenever I'm about to work on a new client and I feel like, oh, I'm not quite sure what I feel like doing, I'm going to look around. And those are the people I go to, and also just randomly on Pinterest as well, to look at different compositions and different uses of motifs, whether it be traditional or with more of a modern twist. So I almost could say that everyone is an influence on me now.
That's so true, and as artists, I think we're influenced by even unusual things that other people wouldn't think we'd be influenced by, a twig, a really twisted branch or something, a skyline. There's so many things that can influence us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just because we're henna artists doesn't mean that we're locked into traditional Mendi. Especially Genevieve is a great example of that in all her very botanical work that she does. And I think that's I love to see how people can use henna in a very different, with a very different vibe.
Yeah, I love Nev's work. She does some beautiful stuff. We're talking about Nev Levin. She is just a phenomenal artist, and her shading is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I love her shading. So, where are you from, Melanie?
Originally from New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Yeah, and now I'm living in Portland, Oregon.
Nice. I knew you had an accent, but I didn't recall where it was from. It doesn't sound Australian, so that's the only one I know.
I'm working on my American accent. Maybe I'll practice it at the retreat.
Oh, fun.
It'll definitely crack you up.
Well, I'll absolutely have to ask you to do it.
I'll put your whole class in it.
Awesome. So what are you currently working on in henna as far as your own artistic pursuits?
Right now, I feel like June, July, August are the peak months of the year where I'm booked for real live appointments on brides and at the market where I work and doing private appointments and different events. So the summer months really take up pretty much almost 100% of my energy with these kinds of bookings, and so my personal artwork gets put aside a little bit until the fall. So in the summer, at the end of July, I just managed to finish one more of my bison skulls that was on demand to go up in a store in the Mississippi neighborhood here in Portland. And so I had to really push and prioritize to get that finished. It was pretty tough. And especially when it's a creative process, it's hard to do that to a deadline. So that's the latest, more personal sort of side project, which still involves henna, but is very unique in its style. And then when the season winds down a little bit more, probably after the retreat, I'll have a little time to start working on more of my mandala paintings. You can see one behind me on the wall.
It's beautiful.
It's full of them. So I love working on those, and I have a collection of frames that are waiting to be filled. And so it's just a matter of having the time. And then apart from that, I'm also dreaming up the next bison skull that I'll be doing. And with all of the skulls I've done so far, I think there's 7 in the collection of bison skulls and longhorn steer skulls. I've been painting the mandalas onto the bone with henna paste and then letting it dry and sealing it, so it's a raised relief decoration. And with this next one that I'm imagining, it's going to be less decadent and more organic. So I'm envisioning a lot of natural materials that I decorate the horns with and wrap the actual bones of the skull with, and then to do my mandala painting in a alternative medium for once, because I always work in henna.
Interesting.
So it's a surprise. I'm not going to reveal what that medium is, but it's going to be pretty incredible if I can pull it off. So I'm really excited to do something that's going to feel more organic and actually can be hung outdoors instead of being more delicate and needing to be inside.
That sounds exciting. I can't wait to see it. I really love the skulls you've done so far.
Yeah, it's been a really fun project, and the whole series is each skull has been so different and had such a different personality. So this one is going to be a little bit of it, almost like a side to that, because it's going to have such a different vibe. It might sort of spin off its whole own series.
That sounds incredible. What do you do? The mandalas, the mandalas you're painting in the frames. What medium are you using for those?
That's henna as well.
Henna as well.
So I coffee stain the paper and then use henna. Sometimes what I've been working more with lately is to actually use the paste to stain the paper, and so then I scrape off the paste and then I fill the rest of the design with the paste that I leave on, so you have more depth. And so it's really fun to see how I keep turning because I keep looking at the paintings, to see how the paste will stain the paper in different ways depending on what batch it is. And I had this old Jamila from 2009, and it was the best stain that I just used last winter. It gave the brightest, most beautiful orange stain on one of the paintings.
Wow, that sounds gorgeous.
Yeah, to see how that turns out. And then also the way that that stain will change over a year or two and darken up and change in its tone.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, Debbie has done some natural skin drums, and
Hmm.
it's interesting to see when the paste is off how much it changes over the years. It
Yeah.
really, really does.
Hmm.
It darkens, but also changes color in a way.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
done a few pieces on paper that I left unsealed, and I put them away and then revisited them, and they'd gone from a light kind of caramelly brown through to a really deeper, more sort of burnt, woody brown.
Yeah, yeah, that's really neat. I love that about henna. It's very organic.
Mm-hmm. It's always changing.
Exactly. So, I'm going to check and see if we have any questions come in yet. Morgan is our moderator, but her computer is frozen. So, I'm just going to check real quick. Okay, I don't see anything from the people yet. I have another question for you. I know you do a lot of gigs and festivals. What are your favorite festivals, or one of your favorite festivals of the year?
I actually stay at all summer. I stay at the Portland Saturday Market, and I mean there are hundreds of festivals going on, especially in my part of the country, in Oregon, and then up into Washington and down into California. But over the years, I sort of tested the waters with some festivals many years ago, and got a little bit cold feet when it came to the festivals because they were very inconsistent and unpredictable. And I found that
True, it's true.
staying consistently at the Portland Saturday Market was what I preferred to do, because I'm very lucky that I live only about 1.5 miles from it, and it's a consistent situation and environment every week, and also very affordable. So there's not a huge risk factor in going to the festival, so travel, the cost of the ticket and to vend, and then having that unpredictable scenario. So after doing a few back in about 2006 and 2007, I decided that I dedicate my energy to the Portland Saturday Market, and it's very much I'm invested in it as my community, as well as because I'm not so involved. All my friends are in the festival community, but that's not so much. It's my personality and energy isn't so much suited to the wildness of festivals and the chaos.
That makes sense. Well, you said you're a little bit more introverted, so that would
Mm-hmm.
make sense. Yeah. Plus, it's nice at the markets because you can build up your clientele over the years, right?
Exactly, and there is that. At the festivals, you do have that sort of consistency of the people who love that same festival and return every year, or who are within the festival community on the West Coast, and so they visit a lot of them. But for me, it's been more manageable, energy-wise and financially, to just stay consistent at the market. And I'm 9 years in at the market now, so I consider myself a lifer, and currently on the board of directors as well. And so it's nice to invest my energy in something that's already very established and also has so much of the future ahead of it. So that's been my chosen home in terms of how I spend my weekends in the summer.
Nice. What are your favorite type of private gigs?
For the private ones, probably, my private appointments that I have here in my henna parlor, because I get to set the environment, the decor, the tone, the music, the scent. It's very private and very peaceful, and people are really it's kind of like this little secret parlor. I mean, there's a business sign outside, but people are coming into my home. It's situated within my home, and it's so beautifully restored and decorated. So even just coming into the entryway and up the stairs to the parlor, they're very, they already feel like they're shifting into a different world. And then they come in here, and it's all decorated in a sort of a Victorian, Asian bohemian style, with a lot of textiles and beautiful furniture and art and products and things. And the constant comments I get are that people say it's so peaceful and so relaxing, and I have my clients fall asleep sometimes as I'm working on them. And I really love that, having that control to really create the experience that I want. And then it's always so peaceful for me as well, and very rewarding. It's a great way to be able to personally connect with my clients, have that privacy to talk and share. And because I also have other products and different things going on in this space, there's a lot for them to be interested in. So I had some clients a few weeks ago who came for a very simple henna design. It was a mother and daughter, and they spent an hour with me. And by the time they left, they said, this was like an event. It was so much fun.
Oh, that's really exciting.
Yeah, and then they wanted to come back for other services such as the Ayurvedic facials that I do, or body treatments. And so it's a wonderful way to sort of share more of my world with them, as opposed to when I'm at a busy corporate event. It's more putting your head down, boom, 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 getting designs done as quickly as possible, and often there's a lot of music noise in the background or something, and so it's harder to talk and really connect with the customer. And I'm all about, with my work, having that personal connection and having it run a lot deeper than just me drawing a pretty picture on somebody. So so I have to say, yeah, being as particular as I am, it's within my own environment that I prefer the best.
It sounds lovely. I'm going to have to come up to Oregon and check it out. It sounds really intriguing. It's nice that henna is like that too. The calming effect of it and relaxing effect. I once was at an event and got a massage and then a henna, about 45 minutes of each. And after I was done, I just was the happiest lady of all time. Like the whole world and everything just left, and everything was just beautiful and happy, and it was the most amazing experience. And henna does that every time. It gives you this incredible sense of calm and relaxing.
It does it, and especially in the summertime, and especially when everyone's very fast-paced and living in a city, it's so wonderful to take that moment where you have to sit still and there's nothing else pulling at you. And so having my henna parlor within my spa, it's really wonderful. I did a body treatment facial on a client a few weeks ago, and then she had me do some henna afterwards because she was going to, I think it was her cousin's wedding down in Mexico. So everyone sort of had to get their henna done before they went down there. And so she had a 2-hour treatment and then about half an hour of henna. And so it was just hours spent just relaxing and taking that time. And she was very stressed out, so it was really nice for her to just have that space and sort of have that sort of peace and privacy, which is also at the same time anonymous because they're not in their own home environment or even in public. They're really sort of secluded here. I love that.
That sounds really nice. Yeah, you're giving them so much more than a henna. You're giving them a break from their everyday madness. So this is your first time teaching at the retreat, but not your first time attending. What are you looking forward to as far as differences?
Well, it's going to be really interesting to be on the other side in the classroom, not in the peanut gallery anymore. So I'm really excited about it because I've been involved in teaching all of my life. I used to teach English in Japan and actually in New Zealand as well to immigrant populations, and then I did my postgraduate in teaching in New Zealand for high school, and then came to the States and also did my yoga teacher training. So I've been teaching all kinds of things all my life, all my adult life. And so I'm really excited to now be teaching the thing that I am most passionate about, and which has been the major part of my life for the last nearly decade. And because often, you go through your life and you're artistic experience, which is your life experience, your creative experience, and you just do it. And you might have some reflection within yourself, or occasionally you might talk to another artist and get to talk about art or what your process is. But oftentimes you're just doing it. And I find that when I'm put into a position where the conversation does open up, it's really interesting what gets revealed. And so I think being not just in conversation, but actually in front of a group and expressing my process and explaining it so that others can take it in and utilize it themselves is going to be a really great learning process for myself, because I've already made my class plan and mentally structured all of that. But you never know. The greatest thing about teaching is that you're always learning from your students as well. It's a collective experience. So I have the information that I know I want to share, but then once I'm with a group of 15 other people who are all artists in their own right and have their own experience, it's going to be a really interesting dynamic.
It will. It is really exciting, and they say, if you want to really learn something, you should teach it.
Yeah, yeah, I like that, and that's been true of a few different subjects in my life. So I think it's always, it's a constant learning process, no matter what the subject is. So that's probably the main thing that comes up for me in terms of being excited that I'll be attending the retreat, but from a different angle. And then also, of course, always the other classes by all the other teachers. I'm really excited to. I don't think I can even attend all the ones I want to, but the new information presented is always fresh and exciting, and coming away with a huge well of inspiration and information to then spend the next year working with and incorporating and processing in my own way.
That is a really fun thing about the retreat. We really look for classes that are beyond just, how to make a flower, how to draw a line. I mean, Debbie's doing a lines class this year, but it'll be about drilling lines and making your lines the most beautiful lines they can be. We want to, we always want to try to push past the typical workshop and kind of give everyone a more intensive experience.
Yeah, nice. And lines are an endless challenge, really.
Of course, yeah.
Still like that self-critique of I could do that line better, or that was a good one, but then the next one, the line quality can vary a lot depending on the day you're having.
Absolutely, or even how your hand feels that day.
I still notice a lot of difference in my line consistency in my work. I have some designs where I totally nail it, and then other times I'm like, that feels like a little like what I would have done 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. But I like that constant self-critique and pushing to do better, and never just sitting happily on where I'm at.
That is important, and it shows in your work. Your work is so beautiful. I think it shows when someone is very good at henna, you can tell that there's someone who is constantly reviewing their own work and constantly trying to be better and better.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's great to see that happening so much, with artists all over the country and the world, especially as we're all influencing each other and observing each other and learning from each other, and these different online groups on Facebook and things like that, like Henna Hub, and getting the feedback as well as just the inspiration. It's amazing that in this particular era, and I feel it happens a lot, especially in the States, where where the culture here is to take something, say, you can say like yoga or henna or whatever practice or art form it is, and to take it to the next level, because we're pushing technique. We're always pushing technique and style and what we can do that's different and new and fusion or something like that. And I used to be very much a purist and like things to remain true to their lineage. But I think over the years I've more and more started to appreciate fusion of style, genres, eras, and how we can take everything to the next level in this century. And you see that happening in sports, you see it happening in art, you see it happening in all kinds of areas.
Definitely. I love fusion of anything because it's exciting. It means that someone took the time to learn both elements and then thought long and hard how to combine them in the best way possible.
Right, of course, yeah, and I'm really starting to appreciate that. I don't know what my problem was before, why I didn't appreciate that. But yeah, it's a deeper level of understanding, and then original creativity as well when you bring the elements together to create something completely unique. And I'm always definitely seeking to do not just to be unique in terms of having a signature style, but that with every client I have, I want them to have something new and specific and that's customized to them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as artists, we tend to be purists at the start of a new art form because it's our way of learning that art form and being true to it in the beginning.
Yeah,
If you aren't true to it in the beginning, will you ever really learn it fully?
absolutely. It's the whole the old adage of learning the rules before you break them.
Exactly. Exactly. So, since we were talking about classes, tell everyone about the classes you're teaching at the retreat this year and what you'll be offering.
So the first class will be Mastering Mandalas, and it's a breakdown of technique on how to draw really visually effective mandalas, because mandalas are an absolutely endless topic. There's so many styles and ways to do them, and it's so fascinating to look at a mandala that someone else has drawn, because you're seeing their mental process as you are with any picture. But mandalas are very specific to that, because you could have 10 people sit down and draw mandalas and you get these incredibly different results. And so it's really, to me, it shows a map of their brain. And sometimes if I have to copy someone else's mandala, I'm sitting there thinking, how does this even develop? I can't see the starting. Obviously, you see the starting point in the middle, but then each concentric layer can get quite confusing to my brain. And so I have my own very specific way of building a mandala, and that's developed over the years, especially as I work so much on my actual paintings, not just on skin. And so that's given me a slightly different way to develop and build the image. Um, and so it's changed the way I work at the composition. And so I'm really excited to share my personal approach to mandalas, what I think creates a really effective image. So the sort of formula of that, and as well as the preciseness of the geometry and the angles, and how you can actually train yourself to do that freehand really effectively. And so um, about 95% of the mandalas I draw are done completely freehand with no instruments to help me get the angles right. When I do them on paper, I sometimes will cheat and use um, a protractor to measure the angles, just to be really, really accurate about it. But I always play with it first freehand to see how well trained my hand is, and I'm often very close. And to me, that's fun, and it's a way to train myself, so that when I'm always just purely freehanding, I've trained my hand through practice to be very precise. And the precision is something that appeals to me on some days more than others. The days I just want to do something free flowing and does not have to be challenged. But I love that challenge, and the mental process of developing an image that builds up concentrically. So it's definitely become one of my favorite things um, in terms of an artistic style, and putting my signature on that. So then the second class I'm teaching is Booth Like a Boss. So it's how to run a market or street fair or festival style booth for your business, and all the different aspects of that. There's so much involved in having a booth, because it's basically like having a pop-up shop. And so you have to consider so many things, from displays, merchandise, pricing, customer service, um, and then you also have issues like weather and adverse weather conditions, things like that. So there's a lot to consider, and it can be somewhat overwhelming, especially when you're beginning, to figure out how to put that together, and what also is the best techniques for the particular crowd that you're catering to. So if you're at a particular one-off event, or if you're at a street fair, or if you're at a regular, consistent market like I am, or if you're going off to a music festival, there's so many different aspects to consider, and how you also want to consider your own personal working style, and all the different options that you have. Once you've figured out your own style, how do you want to structure your booth and business around that? So I spent 9 years perfecting that for myself, and I'm about to change it as well. I'm always, every year I reassess my setup, my booth, and my displays. I'm always replacing images and keeping things looking really fresh. And if there's any improvement I can make, I do it. And I love changing my decorations and just taking it as far as I can. I actually had someone walk past my booth and say, "Well, someone had to bring it, and she sure did." There's so much signage and color and decorations, everything except for flashing neon lights.
That's
So
awesome.
definitely kind of to get some attention with it. So, but I'm currently in the process of completely redesigning my booth at the Saturday market. So I'm really excited to have that ready for the next season in 2015. So I'll just be covering a lot of those logistical aspects and be very ready to answer a lot of questions and concerns that people might have, even just about how to deal with your customers and how to price your work and whether or not you want to deal with having product and the risk of it being damaged or stolen. All this, figuring out those things for each individual and how they want to work with it, and then even in the future then grow from there and expand if they're not comfortable with having a huge, complicated setup to begin with.
Both classes sound fabulous. I'm so excited. I want to take both for sure.
Okay. They're
I
very,
love the,
they're very meaty classes. There's a lot of information in them.
yeah, they sound fantastic. So I know that many people might have this question, but I definitely do. What do you do when it rains? Because I know it rains there probably quite a bit more than it does down here in the desert.
Mhm.
And we just got rained out for my first time.
Oh.
And we all stood there like we had broken legs and looked at each other and said, "What do we do?" So I'm curious, what do you do when it rains? And you're already out, bending.
I have multiple answers to that. I mean, I've spent 9 years dealing with the rain and the freezing cold, even because I used to be really hardcore and stay at the market until Christmas Eve, which is when it closes for 2 months.
Wow.
And so I'd be there through rain and even snow and
Wow.
below freezing. So you have to be just very prepared for all conditions with weights for your booth, and then making sure that you have a good quality booth that doesn't leak, having side walls. One trick I have is that I have an open corner, so I have one, or depending on the day, I have alternative setups. So I have my fine weather setup, and then I have my slightly colder weather setup, and then I have my setup for a rainy day, which is much more minimal. So I don't bring as much. I usually have 2 tables with my design books displayed. On a rainy day, I'll only bring the main table and put out less of my designs to have less risk of the books being damaged. I might not
That's
even
really smart.
I might not hang as many of my photographs as normal, but again, because of the risk of rain damage. And then I get, instead of putting up a side wall that closes you off to anyone walking around, they can't, you're not as visible if you only have one opening, I use a clear shower curtain, and I clip that up so that I'm protected from the water, but people can still see inside my booth.
I
And
love
then
that idea.
that's really a really great solution. And then in terms of the people, actually customers still being able to receive henna, I always make sure I have a propane heater, because we're allowed to have propane heaters at my market. So I always have a heater in my booth to keep it cozy no matter what, and then people can stand in front of that to dry their henna and stay warm, and that actually draws people in because they love the warmth. And then I use Medipore tape to cover the design once it's dry, so that then they can put their clothing over it to protect it. So I can still effectively work on any part of the body, because then once it's taped up, they can cover it and not damage it, and then it's protected from the rain and it keeps their body warm, and they'll still get a great result even in November or December. So that's really the way to deal with it. It's much slower because I have less room in my booth, and people have to sort of huddle in around my heater, but I just, tell people to cozy up and make friends and kind of pretend they're standing around a fire or something. And it just makes everything sort of a little more clumsy and slower, but it's going to be a slower day anyway because not as many people are coming out in the rain.
Yeah.
When it was freezing but dry, I would use, again, just have a lot of lights to help create warmth, have my propane heater, have an electric heating pad, and then for myself, for me to sit on, and then also have the little pocket warmers that you shake, and then they heat up, and I put those in my shoes and my pockets. And one time in the snow, the huge snowfall we had in 2008, it was about 2 feet of snow, and I was actually sitting in a sleeping bag in my booth and selling my candles. I wasn't really doing any henna on people, but I had my candles that I decorate for sale, and it was utterly miserable. One time I fell asleep. It was so cold, and there was no.
Wow.
I actually just fell asleep with my blanket over me. So I think I've sort of really earned my stripes when it comes to working outdoors. And these days, I really know what my setup will be, and also on a really bad day, I just won't go down, and I'll make peace with staying at home and working on my paintings or my candles or whatever it is that I need to do. Um,
Yeah.
one time there was a really rainy day. I think it was early November, and I wore the wrong shoes, and they got saturated, and there was no one there. And I said, you know what? No one's going to notice if I'm not here. So I just walked away from my booth, went home, made a fire, sat in front of the fire for about 3 hours, and then went back down to the market to pack up. No one even knew I was gone because there was no one down there.
Oh,
So
wow.
sometimes those bad days, you just have to suck it up
Yeah.
and bring something to do. I actually these days I always bring foil for rolling my henna cones. So if
Oh,
there's
that's smart.
a quiet moment, I just sit there and I roll cones for hours if I have to, and then I'm doing
Nice.
something productive. And people, I'm doing something so people like to watch me being busy,
Mm-hmm.
doing something odd, and then I'm just stocking up on all the cones that I need.
That's really smart. I like that idea. I love all those ideas. Those are great.
There's lots of ways to do it.
I love the clear shower curtain
Yeah.
because it's so true. When you put the walls up now, you're just not as visible as you used to
Yeah.
be.
It's the wrong kind of energy. You really need to. I mean, henna is essentially a performance art. People are drawn in when they see you working, and you want that to be to have a sort of open and inviting feeling. And I mean, it's okay to have a walled-off booth if you just have a jewelry display, but with henna, it's really important for people to be able to observe the whole process because they're fascinated by it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. People will peek in the back of our booth sometimes
Hmm.
because they can't see from the front. There's too many
Yeah.
people, so they'll peek in the
Right.
back because
Yeah.
everyone wants to see.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So, how about some fun, easy questions? What's your favorite color?
Currently, all shades of purple.
Ah, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yes, my entire bedroom is different shades of sort of dust from like dusky mauve colors through to different purple shades, and I love it.
Pretty.
I'm very happy.
What's your favorite food?
Asian food, so really good Chinese, Thai, Vietnamese, Malaysian. That's my
Yeah,
comfort food because I grew up eating a lot of, particularly Malaysian food and Japanese food. So that's definitely my go-to. I'm not. I think I said one year, not Mexican. That's I don't relate. So yeah. I like Western food, but really my favorite is Asian food. It's my childhood food.
yeah, Asian food's delicious. I love Thai food. That's my favorite. What's your favorite music or type
Um,
of music?
mm, well, genres again are so hard for me to pinpoint, especially these days with so many different genres. But I love classical Indian music and ragas. So I have a whole playlist of ragas that I listen to, and they really put your mind into a theta state. So I use that to when I'm really wanting to focus, and that's great actually for making art because you have the stimulation, but it's not actually agitating your brain waves. It's putting you into a really more of a hypnagogic state, which is wonderful for creativity. So I like a lot of Indian classical, and that's a big part of my life. Um, but then I also like a lot of sort of modern electronic pop, um, and also a lot of world music. I have a friend who sends me a lot of Hebrew music, and then also I love a lot of Arabic stuff, as well as Bulgarian choir music. Yeah, a lot of different things. Hip hop. Yeah.
Very eclectic.
Yeah.
How about country music? So there's some things you don't like.
A little bit here or there might be okay. Like I pretty much like the best quality of anything I can appreciate. So really good country I could get into. Really good Mexican food I can get into. But
That makes
I just sort of
sense.
I'm a little fussier, when it comes to the things that I'm not naturally immediately drawn to.
That makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah,
I'm very
definitely.
I'm very discerning.
We do a bluegrass festival every year, and the first year Debbie asked me to do it with her. I said, bluegrass? Really? Like all weekend?
Yeah.
3 days of bluegrass?
I love bluegrass,
um,
but yeah, it's a lot.
but it actually, we've grown, we didn't realize, I didn't realize how much I loved it until we went and did it. And I
Hmm.
just love it. So it's
Hmm.
interesting how, before we ever did that festival, someone would have asked me if I like bluegrass, and I would have been like, not so much.
Right.
Now I just love it.
And especially like those, the modern enthusiasm for those kinds of genres is just growing. And so, again, like what I was saying earlier with art and with yoga and with all these different things in our culture, there's just this development and enrichment of them that is really exciting. So even if you previously thought that's not so much my thing, you might, yeah, when you really attempt to discover it now, you could be very pleasantly surprised.
So true, so true. And I love there's a lot of new bluegrass artists that are doing fusions themselves,
Mhm.
where they're playing, Michael Jackson songs
Right,
with
right.
bluegrass style music
Uh-huh.
and things like that. That's really
Yeah,
fun.
that's right, like Hasty Dixie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or like two cellists. Have you seen them? Two cellos, they're called.
Oh, that
Um,
sounds familiar.
they're pretty fun. They play all sorts of music from like heavy rock to pop songs, but
Mm-hmm.
with two cellos. It's just two
Mm-hmm.
guys on cellos, so they're pretty great.
Awesome.
So, what's your favorite thing to do at the retreat when you're not in classes?
um, I love the pool. I love going for a swim after lunch just to cool down and refresh before the afternoon classes because when it's hot, especially, we can get a little bit sleepy, and then especially after eating. So I really love that the pool is there and it's so cold and refreshing, and it's just like a little moment to step away from the hubbub and the crowd and just sort of regroup and then feel refreshed for the afternoon. I found that was really helpful for me to sustain through the whole day. So that was one of my favorite things. I also just love seeing the what are now familiar faces as well as the new faces and seeing where everyone's coming from and just being around people who do the same thing that I do, where for so long I felt like I was the only one doing it in my world with my head in the sand. And and then I love the entertainment at night, and also the just everyone getting together at night after the entertainment to geek out and hang out and just do henna on each other. So
Yeah, all night henna party.
I really love, my favorite thing is to sit back and just watch what everyone's doing because it's my time to really, I see the retreat as my time to just sort of absorb. And especially after I've been working so hard for the months coming up to it, I can just sit back and instead of having to draw myself, I can just watch everyone else's process and their designs and compositions and observing how people work, you learn so much. And, not just in terms of what they draw, but how they do it and how their compositions develop and come to life on the body. It's really, really valuable to me. And so I kind of go into a funny, rather than in an output mode, I go into an absorption mode and I take it all in. And then I come home and it takes a while for it all to come out and get processed and for me to really, and then sometimes to revisit my notes and the sketches I made at the time and really integrate that into my own work. So I really look forward to that as my sort of inspiration injection, as well as I love the fact that there's no cell phone reception. And I think that's what really makes it particularly special and unique is that we're up in the mountains and it's so peaceful. So I feel like I've escaped the real hecticness of my everyday, which is 7 days a week in the summertime. And and the fact that we're we're isolated together, and because no one is on their phone, everyone is absolutely 100% connecting with each other in person, in the moment, creating. Sure, we're taking photos, but I mean, that's just such a rare thing to find these days, and I can't imagine how the conferences that happen in the big cities, they must have such a different feel to them because, number one, it's not as relaxing an environment. There's more to deal with on the everyday, as well as trying to meet people and take in all this information and be creative. But just that distraction of modern technology, I think, is one of the things that we suffer from so much these days. And for me, I'm so glad for an opportunity where I can't answer my phone.
That's so wonderful to hear that because it's one of my favorite things about the retreat too is
Mhm.
that like you said so eloquently that we step away from our everyday lives and we're all together 100% paying attention to each other, making connections, making explorations. There's not that distraction. And you know, it's interesting because I talk to other event promoters and they almost fall down on the floor that we don't have any cell phone reception because people can't tweet and people can't, you know, post pictures about the event happening, and you know, nobody's seeing it live real time that are sitting at home wanting to come. And I don't want to ever give that up because
I'm glad.
it's just such a beautiful thing. I think it makes the event so much more special.
Absolutely.
I really do. And it's funny, everyone has a little bit of a freak out on Thursday when they arrive. You know, newbies, they're like, I won't have cell phone reception. What if my kids die? You know, there's all these things that it just seems so scary. And because we've become so conditioned to have it with us at all times. But it's funny because by Thursday night, when everyone's walking back to their cabin, I can see that everyone has completely lost any anxiety about the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all relaxed, and I just love that. That's one of my favorite things is Thursday night, watching people walk back to their cabins and feeling that overall relaxed feeling that everyone has. It's just a zen that washes over everybody.
Yeah, I mean, that used to be the way of life, and so few people will actually carve out that time for themselves. I mean, it's especially when you're self-employed and you know running businesses, running productions, putting things together. It's very hard to step away even for a day because of your sense of obligation and wanting to show up and be successful. And so I think to have an excuse to turn off my phone and just say on my voicemail that I'm at a retreat and you know it's for everyone's benefit because I'm going to come back refreshed and inspired. Um, I actually think that as time goes on, I like to keep, not to say keep people waiting, but to allow people to sort of have that anticipation build up of what's next. And you know that the more time that goes by, it's just going to get better and better. And this is a huge part of that, is an understanding that an artist has to take the time to feed themselves and be inspired and to be able to fill their well so that they can come and then give that out to the best of their abilities to their clients.
Wow, that is so true. You know, that's such an interesting thought because I think that's why we as artists have so much trouble in our current society, at least here in the U.S. especially, being constantly connected and being constantly on call
Mm-hmm.
makes it very difficult for an artist to spend time in the quiet creating without any distractions. And even when you are sitting there quietly without any distractions, you probably always have a little bit of that nagging feeling you should be checking in or checking messages or, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think most of us work now, you know, even if I'm working on a painting, my computer might be next to me because I might be referring to some images that I want to draw from as influence, or maybe it's just open because I'm playing music from it. My phone's going to be next to me, and you know, if someone's going to text me, I will pause to reply or to answer a call from a customer, and so very little time will go by that's actually uninterrupted. So even within my creative process, when it's my more private creative process with my paintings, not on people, I'm still interacting with the world at large and not really shutting myself away. And sometimes it's a welcome relief because I need to take a moment to step back and you know look with fresh eyes, or to rest my hand on my shoulder or something like that and stretch my back. But I'm constantly aware of how inundated we are with technology, and I'm not the hugest fan of that. I mean, I appreciate that we're able to stay connected, but I think that hermit in me and that introvert likes the peace and quiet a lot, and I definitely relish the times when I go traveling and I'm in places where it's not. Well, I mean, these days you can go anywhere and be connected to Wi-Fi, but I really pretend that I can't.
Except for the retreat, really.
Yeah, the retreat is absolutely no choice. But in foreign countries, I just sort of make a point of you know not bringing my laptop and not using my iPhone, and I just say no, you know, I'm doing it the old-fashioned way, and I'll go to an internet cafe once a week if I have to just to check in. But I really think that it's the most precious things that we can do for ourselves as human beings to step away from that constant stimulation and distraction, and it allows us to interact with the world in a different way that ultimately will bring forth more pure creativity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Melanie, where can we find your artwork online?
You can see on my website, which is bluelotushenna.com, I have galleries of a variety of my work, not just the things I do on bodies, but I think some of my skulls are on there and some of my candles and paintings. Um, Probably where you'll see another nice variety is on my Pinterest, which again is Blue Lotus Henna. And so I have a whole gallery of all my skulls and a variety of things that I do. I think I have my mandalas on there, and then bridal and Moroccan and the kinds of things that I do at the market, where there's a ton of variety in terms of, I'll do anything from traditional Mendi to copying cartoon characters to logos, special requests, a lot of sort of more cartoony stuff. And I actually really love the variety in that, because I'm not just a Mendi artist, I consider myself a commercial artist. So there's a lot of flexibility in what I do. And I love that people can bring me almost any idea and I can work with it. And the variety that brings is very refreshing to me, and I love those different kinds of challenges. And then on my Facebook page, Blue Lotus Henna, I am often posting the latest work that I've done. So that's the most sort of, Pinterest and Facebook are the most current.
Nice, nice. Well, I've got your website link up on the page and your Facebook page, and I'll add your Pinterest on there as well so everyone can find those.
Yeah.
Um, I had a great question for you. Oh, that's what I was going to say. When the phones, another thing the phones have changed is now people can bring you a design on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before that was pretty unlikely to happen because they'd have to like print it out or something, or bring it in a magazine. I don't know. It was pretty unlikely.
Fuzzy printouts from the computer was what I used to see, and now people just whip out their phone. They've either, I mean, what I love is, and this is what kids are doing in schools, is instead of making notes, they just take a screenshot. And so they're just taking photos of the design they want in my book, so that when it's their turn, they just have the image right there on their phone, and they don't have to go back to my folder and flip through the pages and find it and all of this. And so kids are really figuring out how to be really efficient about it, or bringing me images that they found on Pinterest and things like that. And that's always really interesting to me, because often they bring images that I feel to be compositionally strange, or line quality is very dubious and things like that. And I think of all the thousands of incredible henna images that are now available online, that to see what people actually are drawn to and what they choose. And so that's always, again, part of a process for me of trying to acknowledge, okay, what is it that appeals to you in this image, and how can I actually take this on and authentically feel like I can do a good job of this. And sometimes it means that I change the image a lot. But it's just so funny to see what filters through your workday because of technology, and I love it, because it when people bring special requests to me of their own thing, it completely changes. It's often something that I would never have come up with on my own, but in terms of composition and certain elements, and so I feel like it just broadens my horizons even more, as well as challenging me to take that on and make it my own. Sometimes I'll do a direct copy. Sometimes, like I said, I improve on it, or end up kind of going on a different tangent, and it's really expansive for me, and I've come away from that experience with some new influence, this little precious gem that I can put in my little purse and pull it out at another time. And sometimes that sends me on a whole new tangent with the direction of what I'm doing.
It's really neat, yeah. And I think that I noticed that Pinterest influences people a lot now with the designs they want. The infinity symbol started floating around Pinterest with all the different words that people liked, written inside. And and then we started getting requests for that constantly. And then the little sparrow was going around, and everybody wanted a little sparrow, so it's really interesting how much that influences people as well.
Oh, absolutely. So it's all the trends, and I've seen this year a lot of arrows. So young women want arrows, and young girls. So I've been doing more arrows than usual.
Nice.
It seems to be this summer's. It hasn't been overwhelming, but it's definitely been the new thing. Not many people this summer have asked for the infinity symbol. and you know that's influenced not just by Pinterest but by the movies and TV shows and trends and what you know certain actors. I've done a lot of the that movie is it what's it called? Begins with a D.
Oh,
It's
the
not,
Hunger Games. Are you thinking of the Hunger Games?
no, after
Oh,
Hunger
no.
Games. No,
Okay.
there's a movie when it begins with a D. It's like Deviant or something like that, and the character in it has three birds on her collarbone. So I've
Oh,
had
okay.
girls coming to me and wanting that done. So you know that media just influences it so much. So I'm only aware of what's going on in the world because all the kids come to me and want it. Oh, something's going on with this movie or Harry Potter or something.
You're really trendy and you didn't even mean to be.
No idea. Makes me feel like an old woman. No idea what the terms are.
Terry Hampton asked, have they ever brought you your own design?
Um, not from the internet, not from Pinterest. No, no one's done that yet.
That'll be interesting when that starts
That'll
happening.
be fun. Yeah, they brought me designs of other people who I know, so that's really fun. I'm like, oh, that's so and so, cool. You know, I know them, and now I can like work with their design. That's really neat. What was the most recent one? Oh, it was. I saw this. I actually posted it on Facebook, and I was asking who was the originator of it. I thought it was Darcy, but it wasn't her original design. Tamara told me it was someone else. And every girl was showing up with it on her phone from Pinterest. It was done around Eid, and it was this flowing design on the hand. Something again compositionally that I would never think up. And so now, in a couple of weeks, I've done it about 4 times. And finally, the last time I did it, I was really happy with the way it turned out compared to the original, and posted a picture of it. But it's just so amazing how there'll be a flurry of a design out there, and so everyone's probably having to copy it for their clients.
That's really funny. Yeah.
When the day
I,
comes with my own, that'll be neat.
it'd be fun to do a poll and see if anyone has gotten their own design given to them yet.
Yeah,
Like if everyone's getting everyone else's designs or if they've ever gotten their own. That's really fun. Well, we are almost out of time. Did you have anything else you wanted to tell everyone about the retreat or anything about the classes they might need to prepare or?
I would like. I suppose the only thing to prepare is if you actually have questions for each class. I see that happening more for the booth class, because if people have been already working or are contemplating setting up a booth at a festival or a market or something, there's probably a lot of questions that they have. So I'll be covering all the ground, but there's always going to be something unique that comes up for the person's situation or their own approach to it. So I'm really excited to hear what people have to say, or for their input on how they already do it in ways that they think are very successful. So I'm really excited to what the students in the class will be sharing about that as well. I think the mandala class itself will be much more presenting the information, probably fewer questions in that class, and more just sort of applying what people are learning. And otherwise, I'm just really excited to pack my bag and come down and have that 4 days of just relaxing and enjoying the environment and getting really inspired.
Nice. Will you be driving or flying down?
I'm going to fly down to Ontario and come down a day early to hang out with Tiffany, who's coming to the retreat this year with her daughter Tiffa. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
That's a lot of sass.
Yeah.
So
Fun.
bringing the sass and then so driving from Riverside up into the mountains. So that's going to be nice.
Awesome. That is really great. How fun that you'll get an extra day down here too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to sort of just taking a little time to myself and to visit.
Wonderful. Well, we can't wait to see you. I can't wait to see you again and catch up. And I can't wait to see how your classes go. I think they sound amazing. I'm just so excited about both of them. Um, they're just so full of so much information that pretty much everyone would love to learn. So I'm really excited about that.
I hope that'll be satisfying.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you in just less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, I've got to prepare my PowerPoints. So I've got homework to do still.
It's nice to know that the instructors are humans too, right?
Yeah. Pressure.
Well, thank you so much, Melanie, for joining us today. It's been really wonderful, and we'll see you really soon.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.